Welcome to the Soul Tribe Podcast. The Soul Tribe Podcast was created to help you navigate through the world of spirituality, wellness, and self-development in an easy, grounded, and relatable way. We break down everything from the Akashic Records, manifesting, spirituality, and so much more. We want to help expand your boundaries and bring the spiritual world to you in a fun and easy way. Get ready to be inspired with tips, tools, and easy to digest information. Let's do this.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Soul Tribe Podcast. I feel like, are people gonna get bored of me like saying that every time exactly the same? Like,
you should try always saying it different.
Make it a weird thing. We just popped on like last minute to record because we were going to record later today instead of earlier. And then...
No, we were going to record tomorrow.
Oh, were we? Oh, we're getting out of the way now then. Okay.
Yeah, I have it in our calendar. Look, guys, listen.
Lorena's the organized one and Lucia's the mess.
I put calendar invites, Zoom links, and she still got it wrong.
No, wait, you tell your side of the story and then I'll tell mine. You go ahead with yours.
No, I'm just saying it's in our calendar.
Yeah.
Even yesterday we discussed it, and I'm like, oh, but I was free now, so I was like, yeah, let's just do it.
Okay, so Lorena sends invites for everything and calendars for every little thing we do. We do a lot together. Yes. And so my email is packed with non-read messages from Lorena. They'll all say calendar, and I can't even bother because there's about 40 of them at this point, and I can't even bother to go into them. So I actually don't really open them.
Why do I even bother then?
I don't know. I put it in my calendar most of the time, but yesterday we decided last minute when we would record, and I didn't put it in. That's why I didn't know it was tomorrow, and I thought it was today.
Oh, I thought you looked at your calendar itself. So I was if she looks at her calendar, she'll see that there's a request for Sunday.
I look at my calendar that's on my phone, but when because my phone is a Samsung, and the calendar things that you send me are Apple, are linked to Apple. So when I go on my computer, but a lot of times when we're talking about it, we're WhatsApping back and forth, and then you send it, and it goes to my laptop, and then I'm not even on my laptop at the time.
Basically just a hot mess. That's basically what this is. Okay. So I'm not going to bother sending anything anymore. I'll just send Zoom links.
Okay, so that's your side of the story and that's mine. Okay, anyways. I mean, I'm not really that big of a mess. Like, I have all my readings booked in, I know when I have them, and I'm okay with that, but...
No, it's when we're working together, that's what I mean. Like,
yeah, I am a mess with that.
I have
agree.
everything, yeah.
Yes.
But you're never late, you never forget anything, so I guess I don't really need to...
say more nice things about me.
You know what I mean.
So, okay. So we didn't really, I didn't have any mind an episode, and you didn't either. And then we started talking right before we started recording, talking about like our old group in Uruguay, right?
Yeah.
And I was saying to Lorena, like, everyone in the town like knew us, right? Like our group, and I'm gonna put the word, we were a weird group. Like, we were definitely weird. Like, we were different, we were weird, but people still liked us. Right? Like, it was like, people still wanted to hang out. It was okay. They would hang out with us. But and then I was talking to one of our friends that's from that group, and I was saying to her, like, do you realize how like different and weird we were? Like, we were just so in our world that we never saw it. But now that I'm like, you know, way past that, and I look back, I said, yeah, we were really weird. We were system breakers. Mm-hmm. And then I thought about that. We were just talking about that. I thought system breakers. I'm like, that's literally the definition of a starseed.
Yeah.
Starseeds
so many people
yes.
in that group. So many.
All of us.
Not everybody, but most of that group.
Can you think of anybody in the group that actually works for a company? They all work for themselves now.
Yeah, I guess so.
All
a lot
of them
traveled. A lot, yeah.
Most of them have gone all
thing.
over the world. Yeah, most of them like traveled all over the place, meshed with different countries. Cultures. The majority of them, no, actually all of them lived outside of the country at some point. Some of them went back.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But they all of us moved out to live in different countries all at some point. Some of us did not go back. Some of us did go back.
It's so funny.
And we all work for ourselves in some sort of way, in something that we like.
Yeah.
One of them does the wood therapy, massage therapy thing, which by the way, like I love, like I wish she was here. The majority, half of them are in food. They love food and cuisine, and they do their own like kind of. They became chefs and they do their own kind of food.
Even starting their own restaurants.
Yeah, so 2 of them have their own restaurants, right? Mm-hmm. And then...
That was more like your group, though. I was kind of meshed in with that group.
Yeah.
I was like in in a few different groups.
Yeah.
But also as such an introvert, it was like I was a weirdo.
Yeah, but you ended up meshing with our group because then some of our friends had a band that became really well known locally.
Yeah, there was a band involved.
So there was a band
and everybody
involved.
loved the band.
Everybody loved the band, and the band was always playing.
We were all groupies, right?
Yeah, we were all there with the band every time, right? And the band was punk music.
Yeah, it was all punk, but we'd all like travel sometimes, take a big bus.
We would take the big bus, and we would, all of us on the bus, we'd always go with the band, all of us all together. But because
so
our
fun.
friends were the band members, so we would all, it wasn't a groupie thing, it was just an excuse to hang out more,
we were
really.
all friends.
Yeah. So that got me thinking, we were talking about that before getting on this recording, I was thinking, that, I mean, if you had to find a definition of Starseed, it's so hard because I think Starseeds are going to find different ways to break the system. That was our way of breaking the system. Like, we were kind of our own kind of rebels, and we were like, no, we're going to work for ourselves, and we're going to do our own thing, and, all that kind of thing. And we were very passionate. We were all very passionate, towards whatever that individual liked, but we were all very, very passionate. And the other thing I realized, all of them are open to spiritual stuff. The half of the group reads Akashic Records for themselves, by the way. I don't know if you knew that. Guys and girls, half of them. And I even found out that some of them were already reading Akashic Records when we met back up, and I'm like, oh yeah, what are you doing, Lou? How have you been? I'm like, oh yeah, well, I'm over here, kind of doing this, but I also read Akashic Records. Oh, I read Akashic Records too. I'm like, what? Seriously?
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so half the group is reading Akashic Records for themselves. And with the other half, they're like, oh, can you give me a reading? Like, they're so, it's like a normal thing. So obviously our souls conjuncted on purpose and had to awake or like do something together, right? So I think that was really interesting. But that for me, like when we talk about starseeds and the majority, I would say about almost half of Earth at least, are literally souls that are starseeds that have a contract to say, well, I'm going to go to Earth and I'm going to go because to be able to jump into this whole shift from 3D to 5D that we've been talking about so much, you literally have to break the system down. You can't with the system.
No, you can't.
So what do you do? Like, think about administration-wise, like outside, externally. Think about all these beings. You know, yo, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna get this 5D thing going? The New Yorkers, the beings, you see. Anyways, how do we get this thing going? And then they're gonna be like, we gotta break the system. All right, get the troops in. Get all the souls that want to sign up. Okay, guys, you're gonna break the system this way, and you're gonna break the system that way, and you're gonna focus on it from that way. So I think souls are all here to do it in a different way, and some of those conjunct together like our group to break it in their own way.
It's so funny because I sometimes look back at, because it was a weird time, right? We had moved back from New York back to Uruguay. We were living in a really, really small like beach town for a while, where we made a group of friends and we kind of integrated a little bit with the culture. But then we moved to like where we actually lived, where we finished school, where we did all that. And it's funny because I start to think like how we all met.
I don't remember
Do you know what I mean? It's so random because everybody kind of knew each other. It was like so meant to be. That's what I mean.
Yes.
Like how everything overlapped and like I knew this person and then you, oh yeah, and we're all hanging. And like Lou and I are a year and a half apart. So technically there didn't need to be like any mixing in of our friends, right? Because they're all age groups, but there are people from all different age groups. And it's I'm so glad that we lived where we lived because it was so, first of all, safe, but also it was just like, I don't know. I like ride my bike at like 1 a.m. to meet up with friends. You know what I mean?
Oh, you could do that here in Holland too, by the way.
Yeah. It was just so nice. And I don't know. I think there's this.
We wouldn't have had that liberty if we had stayed in New York. That's for sure.
No, it would have been so different.
We were out till 6 in the morning and we were 16 years old.
Yeah.
And it was a normal thing and everyone was doing it. Like.
Yeah. And doing like, getting ice cream or going out like with your friends or just hanging out on like the esplanade in front of the beach. Like. We wouldn't really go out we would go to a few parties, but we would usually do our own thing. Like we would do what's it called? Like bonfires.
Like bonfires on the beach. We would do that ourselves and we'd spend all night hanging out at the bonfire we would just, I don't know. The guys were always coming up with the plans. Like
the craziest ideas.
I know. And then remember when they bought that car?
I remember
the experiences I have with the car.
But you had the experience with
Lorena.
it. I was not involved in that era.
That car, oh my God. And the local cops knew us. They knew our group, and they knew the car was all of ours. And they like even would honk the horn and say hello to us and pass us.
Oh my gosh.
Like everyone registered, like they knew exactly, like, and sometimes we were up to no good because we were rebels. Like sometimes we were up to no good, but the cops, like we were considered a little bit troublemakers, but good guys. So like it was kind of okay.
You were all good. No,
yeah.
all of you were good. I wasn't such a rebel, so I didn't get involved so much in that side of stuff. I like joined afterwards, like, hey, how'd it go? How's everything? Yeah. But I do feel like in general, all the people in that group that we all connected with was such a blessing in so many ways. It literally made us who we are today. I'm literally getting chills saying that. Like we are who we are because of that group and what we experienced and how open they were to everything.
So
because
open.
then we could be ourselves too, right? We can be weirdos. We could just like, you know,
I mean, I went back to Uruguay to visit mom and dad. What was it? 2 years ago? I don't remember anymore now. It was COVID first started, I think.
No, it was way before that.
I had to get PCR tests. What are you talking about?
No, it was like 2 years ago.
So I went to I went to Uruguay during that time, which was probably 2 years ago. I don't know. And those that were still there, I met up with them. And I mean, for example, like one of my good friends, I hadn't seen her from the group. I hadn't seen her. How long was it? I think we calculated 12, 13 years we hadn't seen each other.
Yeah.
And it was like not one day had passed. The conversation, there was no awkward pause. Like it was, and we still loved each other the same amount, and we were hugging each other and catching up as fast as we could. And it was like, and the same thing with the other guys that I met. Like I messaged them and they came over to like hang out at the house with mom and dad was there, and it was the same. It was like time had never passed. And it's this like weird connection you have. It's just even if 20 years pass, you see them again.
That's not the case with everybody, though. You know what I mean? Like there's some people you'll run into, you'll be like, "What do I talk about?" That goes to show the connection, though. You know what I mean? Like that it was just there's like a soul contract there in some way, and I do feel like I guess this goes a little bit into what I feel sometimes with. We've talked a lot about on the podcast this idea of. Like some people are here to help us see certain things and there's certain parts of the soul and some people have to leave our life. That could be friendships, that could be relationships, it could be a bunch of stuff, right? But that goes to show how that doesn't mean that the person completely leaves. You might reconnect at some point, but the person was there to serve some kind of purpose, or you help them in some way too, right? Like to learn, to expand, to grow, to see things in a different perspective, to feel a part of something. Like there's so many layers to that. And I think in so many ways, it's like, it's nice to not dwell on the past because that's never a good thing, but go back and just be grateful and connect the dots on those things of where you are and what got you to where you are so that you can look to the future and be like, okay, if this got me here, what do I need to do now to get to this thing I want to get to? And people help us do that. We can't expect to do that on our own all of the time, right? There's people that are there to help push us in that direction by sometimes really hard lessons. But other times it's like they're just there to like make you feel better or make you feel accepted or make you feel like a part of something, which that dynamic depends on your soul contract with the person or that group. But I think that group really helped us all. I don't know. It was just there's just something loving about the group too. Do you know what I mean? Like everybody
there was
in their
no
own
one
way.
ever like, what's the word I'm looking for? There was, you know how like you look at like reality shows now and you see these groups and these people are criticizing each other behind their backs? That never happened.
Yeah.
I never saw that. And we were young and we were stupid, but still never, we were all like totally respected and loved each other. And if we were weirdos, we would say to your face, like, why are you being such a weirdo? Like, what's up with that?
Yeah.
Like, everything was shared and nothing was behind anybody's back ever. And I don't know, it's like, I didn't realize that was a special thing or that was like a good thing until like you start seeing the rest of the world and go, oh wow, like I never saw that in my group of friends. That never happened. There was never any dissing or bashing or back talking or down talking or like we were just always in a good place.
Yeah, that's very true. Obviously, there's not everything's perfect, but in general, I would say that that really is the energy, and I think that's something to be so grateful for. You know, like, and how, you know, sorry, my dog's Sandy just snorts all day. I swear to God, my dog's like half pig, half dog. She's so interesting.
No, and she'd be also cat because she sleeps a lot, doesn't she?
She does. She sleeps too much. Sometimes it's a little worrying, but I'm sure most dogs do that.
Yeah, but Wendy does too. Wendy sleeps a lot.
Yeah. What was I going to say? I was going to say that I feel, at least this is at a personal level, that I was going through a lot. You know, I always talk about my panic attacks, my depression. That was like at the height of it all when we were all in that group. I was in a relationship at the time. It was crazy. Like, and I look back and I'm like, no one would have ever made me feel bad. And I even talked about it. Like I would tell people I'm having a panic attack or I know I can't go out because of this. No one ever made me feel bad. Like people always like were supportive. People were always like looking out for each other. Do you know what I mean?
And we're talking about like, this is before, like nowadays that's even more common for people to understand you and support you. But back then, no one really talked, like that wasn't a thing talked about.
I didn't even understand what was going on. You know what I mean? Like I was like, I know there's, like I couldn't get to the bottom of it spiritually or emotionally until I guess I started therapy. But it was years before I got like actual help. I was on medication and stuff. And it was just like, it's hard because sometimes I'd get so much anxiety going out. Like the idea of going out would give me a massive panic attack. Like I would be having a panic attack while we were going to see the band or something. Do you know what I mean? Like it was constant. And sometimes it was more than one while we were like out for a couple of hours.
I don't think I ever realized it.
I wouldn't tell people.
Oh, that's why. Because I don't remember even noticing
it was, that. I'm not going to say something I was ashamed of, but it was just something that I like learned to live with. But it was, like I look back at those times and I'm like, oh my God, how was I even surviving? I don't know. But I'm glad I got through. It taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about myself and how, for me physically, things will show up when I'm not dealing with my emotions like that. Like, generally speaking, to me, that repression, like I always talk about the repression of not talking about things or not dealing with the emotions of the move and how that really rocked my world in a different way than you or mom or dad. But until I started really expressing myself and tuning into those feelings and emotions, I didn't get better. That was just a reality of it. And I think for many of us, that might be the case. And I'm only sharing this because I think this could be maybe somebody here listening that could be going through something similar, right? But also knowing that I had people around me that weren't going to judge me. They weren't going to make me feel bad if I was having a panic attack, right?
Yeah.
That could understand, even though we were so young. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we were young. You were super young.
I was like 17, 18. Yeah, I was young.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you were talking about the Starseeds, I definitely think there's like a weird energy back home in that sense in general weird. With that group. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so weird. It just makes me laugh because like I look at now that I'm so far behind in my lifetime now, I zoom out and I see it like I'm not there anymore. Like I'm not part of it. I'm looking out and going, yeah, this group is definitely here to do some important stuff all together. Like I can totally see it now.
Yeah.
But when you're in the midst of something, you can't see it because you're in the middle. That's why they say like sometimes ask for advice from someone that's outside because they can see it from outside of where you are. And that's, I mean, in this case, I'm talking about a good perspective, right? Like there was nothing bad, but like that's an example of how when you're not in the middle of it anymore, you can see outside and go, oh, I see the purpose of that. Like I see it now.
Oh, that's why we love the Akashic Records, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because it gives you that perspective. It takes like a wide angle view of everything. And you can take a bit of a step back and be like, what's going on here? What's the energy around this? What's the pattern? Where's the foundation? What are we dealing with? And really understand it at different levels and different layers so that you can start to change. You can start to make different choices, right? And that for me was something, especially when you're in something like mental health issues, like depression or anything like that, it becomes quite impossible. So that's why for me, getting readings later on in life was so important, because it would give me that perspective, even though I couldn't get that within myself or opening my own records, because obviously I had just started getting them. But I definitely feel like, I think all of us, if we can look back on life, like from this moment back, and realize all those people that were put on our path to help us in some way, even if it was through hardship, even if it was through somebody bringing this amazing energy that made us feel included or made us feel accepted, really start to look at those like relationships or even those encounters, because it could be a small encounter, like, I don't know, you're on a train or you're taking the bus and you start talking to somebody, how even those little things can really affect us in our path. And I don't take any of that for granted, because I definitely feel like everything's there to show us something.
Yeah. How have you been feeling in the last like few months? Do you feel like the world has changed for you, or do you feel like the world is changing, or do you feel like you're changing, or like what have you felt? I'm interested in knowing like what you've grabbed on from where you are.
Definitely an interesting time right now for many of us. I definitely feel, that solo episode I did a while ago of like stepping into your power and not holding yourself back anymore. I've had to go a bit inward to be able to get into that energy, because it definitely feels like it's interesting, because I feel like the pandemic has been really good in many ways, like we've talked about. It's helped me start to really listen to myself, started therapy again, started listening to myself, started really being more intentional with how I'm living my life in many ways. But at the same time, I've had to really go inward to like work through personal things like emotions, and that's never easy, right? But then also knowing when I need assistance. So that's like when I said I started therapy. I have gotten readings here and there, and being able to work through my own things and knowing that there's seasons too, right? Like not everything's going to last forever. And I think that's when I look back at my journey, like with depression and panic attacks and anxiety, that was my main fear. Will this ever go away? Will I ever get better? Is this how I'm going to live my life for the rest of my days?
Yeah.
And if so, no, thank you. Like,
yeah.
I do not want to live like this.
No,
it's
like,
kind of the same thing with your premonition dreams, right?
Torture.
It's torture, literally. But that's the victim role, right? I'm not going to be like, I'm just going to sit back and let this happen to me and be like, this is telling me something. So I'm kind of in that energy now of like being like, what is everything that's happening to me or happened to me or things that are going on, and what role do I play in that? Like taking accountability and like, and saying like, not everything's happening to me. And I don't think I live in the victim role. I think I used to, very much so. Oh my gosh, very much so. Everything was happening to me. Life sucked. And now it's more like, well, things are happening or not happening because I'm maybe not manifesting it, or I'm not in that energy, or I'm not working towards that. So I'm kind of trying to find balance in how I live my life. And I think I've also started to really look at this balance of life, like work and life, and being able to take a bit of a step back at moments and unplug. I haven't really been very, very active on social media, because I'm just kind of like, I'll show up when I feel like showing up. And
I think
before
it's the way
I was
it
more
should
like
be.
structured.
If something becomes at least for me, my character trait, when something becomes an obligation,
yeah,
it starts losing. I like full Lucia can't show up.
No, but you know what? For me, it's really interesting. Social media, and I'm just talking about my Instagram really, because I don't really post on Facebook unless it's like something I push from Instagram to Facebook. But on Instagram, to me, I feel like there's so many interesting moments that I've posted something and somebody's resonated with it, and then we'll have a really interesting conversation or back and forth of like a chat, which has helped me, but it's also helped them. So I feel like sometimes by just sharing little things, you can inspire somebody to not feel alone. And in that sense, I feel like I like showing up. I love sharing ideas. But sometimes I hold myself back from that. So it's not that I don't want to show up. It's like, I'm just scared. I'm like, do you know what I mean? Like I always talk about getting out of your own way, but sometimes I feel like I do that. But also I think you have to know when you have to listen to yourself and when you don't have to show up like that. And I'm showing up in other ways. I'm still doing readings. I'm still there for my clients, very much so. But it's like the energy I have to put in to show up on Instagram isn't something I have right now. I don't have that energy right now, fully at least. But I think also not making your life harder. I'm thinking about those things. You're also
showing up. You're just showing on the podcast. Like you're showing up somewhere.
Oh, I'm showing up. Yeah. I'm just not showing up on social media. Also, I think the whole thing with the scammer thing, like that annoying. Really put me off a little bit of like, it really upset me a bit. Like really a bit. No, that's kind of contradictory. It really upset me because I know it affected a few people that I know, and that really is not good. So like I said in the last episode, I made my account private for now. So if people want to follow me, they can just request. And I'll see what I do with that, because I definitely want people to find me and to understand my ideas and for me to be able to help them. But people will find you regardless. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I'm just like, whatever.
I've been private the whole time and I've still had people add me. Like people still somehow find you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Very true. But I think there's also this thing of like finding balance in your life. Like how can you do everything and also nothing? Do you know what I mean? Like be productive, but also be able to unplug and be able to get into that creative mode. And that's where I am at in my life, I think, and taking a bit of a step back in certain areas so that I can take care of myself, so that I can be there for people. Because if you don't do that, then you're showing up, you're like half showing up. Yeah. And that's not how I want to show up for people. That's not the role I want to play in people's lives.
Yeah. I mean,
What about you?
I was just thinking about your thing. It's, do things that you don't feel forced to do. Do things you're called to do. I think that's the answer for the balance.
Yeah.
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 And we're going through cycles. There's going to be cycles where you feel like for some reason I feel like I need to be on Instagram more. And maybe there's a reason for that outside of you. And then maybe.
Amen.
Yeah. So that's
something that I'm learning to like lean into more these days, because before it was more like everything's like black or white, right? There's no grays. There's no intermediate colors or tones. And it's like, if I don't feel it, then I'll never get that feeling again. It's like, no, this could be just a season. And this is just what I'm going through right now. And that doesn't mean that and if things shift, things might have had to shift. We did
an episode where it was like, remember we talked about like expansion and compression? Yes, that's just another version of expansion. Like go in for a little bit and then, I'm going to be extrovert a little bit and then be an introvert. I think we're all made to be introverts and extroverts at some point. Like we're supposed to cycle through those.
I do agree that. Yeah.
For me, I was telling Sandra today, I wish I had the button to pause time and sit down and read 25 books.
Oh, I'd love that.
Because I'm like, and I keep hearing this from so many people. Like, all of us are just dying to absorb all this information and read all these books. And it's a thing where, like, it's not just we want it. It's like we enjoy that. And we don't have enough time. And it's just so annoying. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
So that's frustrating. I'm still studying a lot, like the universal stuff. And I'm diving into all different aspects to, like, understand the whole I'm trying to like make a mega package to understand it better, just because I'm obsessed with it, not because like anyone's making me, like that's my calling right now.
No, this is your thing. Like every time you talk about this stuff, I'm just like, this is so Lou.
Oh my God, I get into it so much.
I can't even like put words to it.
I know I'm into it.
I'm so happy that you've kind of dove into this so much, but also showing your passion about it and talking about it and it being so well received too. Yeah.
Oh my God. Sometimes I started talking about it on, with the Patreon group, and I was like, oh my God, like, please people, like, don't get mad at me. Like I was scared if it was like too much information too fast, or because it's stuff that's totally like not reflective of what we've been taught. And so when I talk to our community, like on Telegram and stuff, in the beginning, it's a little scary. I'm like, oh, what are they going to think when I say something? No, Lucia, stop. Just say it. So I'm just like sharing on the Telegram group, right? And everyone's like totally into it, right? And so it's exciting. So I'm in the process right now. I've started going through this process of feeling guilty because I realize that in the Hispanic world, this information is much more accessible. Mm-hmm. But I'm starting to realize that in the English-speaking community, this is really hard information to get. And so I said, oh my God, like I have the ability to pass that information into that language for people, and I've been sitting on it, and I feel this little bit of guilt about it. And also because I'm getting messages in parallel, people going, oh my God, when are you going to share more about this and that? I really want to hear about this. And it's like, I can't just be like, answer the question and be like, oh, it's this, because then I need to go back into the history of how it became that. And so I'm like, oh, I eventually have to do an episode and talk about that. And so I'm kind of like, it's like pausing questions and people's interest. And I think everyone should have the right to access this information.
But why do you feel guilty?
I know I shouldn't feel guilty because I feel like my calling is to share it. That's why.
So guilty that you're not sharing.
Yeah, but I'm also
okay.
I also recognizing that I need to take my time and go through it. And I have a process. Like I have a process where like I listen to it, I read it, I write it down, I put in my own words, I see how it feels and sits with me. Sometimes I'm like, ooh, this I don't know, and then I hear it in a different way. I'm like, oh, okay, I understand now. Oh, I accept that way of explaining. So I'm going through a process on my own of breaking my own programs. Like it's not that easy for Lucia to just go, oh yeah, this, because it totally contradicts what like they might have told you like at school, for example, and you got to accept it as a possible truth. I have to go through the process of breaking it. I was telling like, because I'm doing the class, right, with a bunch of other people in the Spanish-speaking community that are learning it too. I have more than one source, but this is like the main place where I get it, and then from there I look to see what else I could figure out to piece it all together more. But like that's my main source, and it's 3 hours of class sometimes. Or like 2.5 hours of class, almost 3. And I became friends with one of the girls in the group, and so we telegram back and forth. And I messaged her the other day, and I said, oh my God, I feel like I can't take it anymore. This was too much information. It was too difficult to understand, and it was too much. How do you feeling? I thought it was just me, no? Right? Like, I'm like, oh. And I messaged her, she goes, I left. I couldn't deal with it anymore. She says, I left the Zoom. I couldn't do it anymore. She said, because they send us the recording and they give us a few days to watch it, and then it's gone. Because it's the way the galactic information is supposed to be received. You're not supposed to like lag on it. You're supposed to bring it in a specific way. And so they're working with parameters that are coming from the Pleiades. And so these are the parameters the Pleiades gives. Like, you have this much time to watch it. If not, it's gone. Like, your energy's not dedicated to it, and maybe you're just not ready for it. So she's like, I'm just gonna go back when they give us the recording. I'm gonna rewatch it. I couldn't handle it anymore. And I said, oh my God, thank God it wasn't only me. And then I went to go to sleep that night, and I was tossing and turning. The information was going through my head like crazy. My mind couldn't sleep. I was like freaking out about it. And then I messaged her. She goes, my night was awful too. It was too much information. It was like, because it's going against everything you've ever been taught. And your brain doesn't want to release the control because it means that there's uncharted territories it has no idea about out there. And it needs to understand and accept that. And every time we have a new class, it's new brain shattering information for the program. And you're like, oh, here we go again.
And that must be like every class, because imagine like
I think
maybe
that's
every
why,
once in a while that's doable.
No, I think that's why they do class every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because they need to give us time to integrate it, break programs, accept it, understand it. And then the next class prolongs that into what more we need to know. So, whew, yeah.
Take a breather.
Yeah. So I'm going through that process, and it works because all the stuff that was the initial class, which we've been in it for 2.5 months now, I think it is, or something.
I think so, yeah.
So all that stuff from the beginning, I remember the first class and feeling the same that I did this class I'm talking about that I just had. And now I'm like laughing about it. I'm like, yeah, of course that's the way it functioned. It totally makes sense now. Like, it's a whole process your brain has to go through. So now I'm like understanding the process, because now when I go back to the beginning, to me, it's like information that I totally know.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I'm so happy for you. That's amazing. And the fact that you're passing that information on, it's not just like staying, you know, in your brain or something or on paper, that you can pass that on. And in another language. Does the teacher not teach in English? Does she not know English?
No, they don't speak. All the people that share this information, either via book, via talking about it, via giving classes, via channeling on videos, whatever, none of them speak English. But supposedly I didn't know this. This is what the teacher was explaining the other day, and I never even thought to ask the Akashic Records this, because that's a good question. So many of the words used from the ultra, you're getting the information from the supra. So there's a federation, there's a galactic federation, and above the galactic federation is the supra federation. Super galactic federation, something like that. I would have to relook up the exact title, but it's above that. It's way more individuals, much higher up. So the information's coming from the super galactic federation, and all the kind of like words they use and galactic, I don't know, you could say like universal and planetary. Of course, they don't call, like, for example, Jupiter. They'll have another name for it. They have an energetic name for it, right? And they all really sound Spanish. All of them sound very Latin, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why every time I speak about something, I'm like, how do I pronounce that in English? Like, okay, how would I pronounce that? And then I never thought about asking the Akashic Records, like, and then someone asked the other day in class, like, what about if someone speaks another language? Like, let's say someone speaks German. Why are the words so similar to, like, our Latin Spanish? And they said, because actually the Spanish language, especially the one from Uruguay and Argentina, the Castellano, apparently is the one that's most similar to how they communicate and how they word things there. So apparently a lot of souls that are here to do that kind of work incarnated in those areas because of that, because it's the most matchable vibration to that language. And I was like, oh.
So where's the teacher from?
Argentina.
Oh.
And then there's another guy that speaks a lot, and he speaks Spanish, and he's from Chile, I think. He speaks Spanish and Portuguese, but he prefers Portuguese because Portuguese is like Argentina and Uruguay, more similar to Castellano.
Yeah.
So all these individuals that were placed upon Earth to share this speak that type of Spanish because it was easier for them to access the information because of the vibration and the tones and the words and things like that. So I think that's why there's not a lot of English-based information coming out because of that, because it's most of those souls seem to have decided to incarnate in that area because of the commodity of receiving the information, understanding it.
Yeah.
And then from there it has to start extending out, of course. And so that's why I've been feeling bad. But the information's out there. Like, there's a book that was channeled in the 1930s, which I share this with the people, like, in the Telegram. I was talking to them in the Urantia book. Sorry, Wendy's barking.
I can hear Wendy.
She's 3 floors down, by the way. So, like, there are some sources in English. One of them is, you guys should go to, anyone who's interested in, like, reading it, the Urantia book, which you can go and Google it, and there's like a website where you can get the book from. You can also buy the book, and it has a bunch of information that was channeled in the 1930s. But I mean, this is back when, like, internet wasn't a thing, right? It was harder to extend it out and get it out there. But that has a lot of information, and that's very much tied to what I've been learning. I haven't read the book, so I can't confirm it, but supposedly a lot of what we're going through has been at some point stated or shared in that book. So if anybody's interested, go there. But I'm currently in the process of trying to prepare a platform to be able to share it, and I'm not going to do it like on this podcast because I don't think everyone's ready to receive that information. And I'm also not comfortable sharing it like on the podcast, like people can, everyone that's listening did listen to that, because not everyone's ready for that. And also I still have that little fear of sounding a little crazy. If that's possible.
No, in this podcast, I mean, you'll share little bits and pieces here, of course, because I know you're already doing that. But this podcast is more about people at all levels, at all different stages. There's different levels to the podcast. We talk about the emotional stuff. We talk about the intergalactical stuff. We talk about we don't want to focus on one thing. That was always our thing. Like we want to talk about everything. So it'll be a part of it, but you're not going to teach on here.
No. I think it needs to have its own place. It needs to be organized in its own place, and I need to do what Lorena does. I need to be organized. So I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Yeah, I'm happy. That makes me happy that you've connected with that and that you can pass that on.
I also like that it's going to help me remember and learn it better. Like when you have to I have to find a way to say it in my own words, and I'm going to do it with the Akashic Records open, of course, and I'm going to be talking about it, and I feel like that helps record it in my brain as well.
Of course, 100%. But I also think there's a part of you that also needs to connect with her own source, be it the Akashic Records or whatever, and be able to decipher what you want to pass on as information that you're receiving too, intertwined with that. That's the way I see it for you. So I think that will take a little bit of time. You'll have to figure out how you're going to do that. But that goes to show, like anybody listening now too, like we always talk about doing things your own way, you know, and how can you find your authentic path? And I think you're an example of that here because you're learning it, but you're also passing it on in your own way and in your own energy with the Akashic Records, like mixed in with that. And also we have talked about you connecting with Stuve. So I'm sure that could be something that opens up for you. That's kind of what I'm getting for you, like how that could be a part of this journey for you too, of like moving forward in a different way. But I also think like we're not here to copy people. Like how can you do things your own way? And that's why when we teach stuff, like we teach level 1 or level 2, it's like we don't have all the answers because everybody's different. Everybody's unique and not everybody's here to do it the same way. But we can teach you tricks and little tips and things like that where you can figure that out.
Yeah.
But you have to always listen to yourself.
And I think everyone always puts it in their own perspective, I guess you could say. Like you can hear someone talk about this information. I have more than one place where I go to get information, right? One of them always sees it as a very negative way. Mm-hmm. And the other person sees it always as a positive way. And you can already see they're giving the exact, it's basically the exact same information, just said in different words in a different way. And one of them sees things as always being complicated and difficult. And the other one sees it as being part of the divine plan, and it's part of the progress and part of the soul, and we're breaking through, and so it's so funny because I go check to see what both of them have to say, and I said that's so I always think it's so funny. I'm like,
that's interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting. But they both say that they don't talk crap about each other. Like they both know each other, and they both like no, that person's right, but that's their perspective. That's how they see it. And the idea is that they're both working, their souls, it's not about them on earth here. It's that both of their souls are part of different kinds of teams. And so those different kinds of teams work with the plan in different ways. So I think that every soul that signs up, that's here to kind of like share certain teachings, information, whatever it is, teach information, they're part of some sort of other team that's not on earth, and they're going to have their own way of understanding information. So the perspective starts with your soul, for me, if you ask me, like already.
I agree.
So I think that some teachers might, for example, Akashic Records, maybe we'll teach it in a certain way because that's where how our souls are signed up to do it and how they're working with it on the other side. Maybe someone else teaches it in a different way and sees it differently because their soul's in a different team doing it in a different way. So it's like, that's what we say, like, go to the teacher that vibes with you, because that's the person probably going to be able to teach you the way that you're going to be able to comprehend, grasp, and function with it better.
Of course. 100%. I was just thinking, like, what we're going to name this episode, and the first word that came to me was, like, potpourri.
I love the word potpourri.
I think this is going to be a potpourri episode.
Well, we talked about Starseeds. And we talked about universal information. And we talked about how we were feeling at the time. We didn't go too much all over the place. It's okay.
No, but it's still potpourri because you know what I mean? I think we should have a potpourri episode like this, like
every once in a while.
Every once in a
Potpourri
while.
episode number 25. Yeah, so I mean, we were planning something specific, and then the starseed conversation happened before, and it just felt like we needed to talk about that.
Yeah.
I invite everyone that's listening to go back and remember their group of friends, and try to zoom out and look at it from an outside perspective, and try to see what it is, why your soul picked those people, and what it is. Like, I invite you guys to do what we were just talking about in the beginning, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to be like, oh, now I get it.
Maybe it's not a group of friends. Maybe it's just like a friend.
Yeah, it
or
could be
like
one
a good
best friend or
somebody that was in your life for a specific period of time. Yeah, that'd be cool. And I like to hear people's comments too. Like, I want feedback. Basically, that's what I'm saying. Send feedback, please.
I got feedback from the last episode about the popping.
Okay.
And one of our Patreon members connected with me on the side and said that they'd heard that before, and that it was possibly Kundalini awakening.
Okay, yeah, we had said something about that.
I was thinking it was Kundalini. Yeah, I actually haven't. I was going to Google it. I haven't Googled it. I have to. It didn't come back though. Now it just flows, and I don't have any more popping. So maybe the Kundalini awakening is one. It's like you unblock something once, and then everything flows. Maybe, I don't know.
I'm not 100% sure, but sounds about right.
But I'm proud of myself. I'm doing 2 hours of meditation Monday to Friday. I mean, I haven't missed. It's been almost 3 weeks. I haven't missed one day.
Wow.
Yeah. I haven't missed one day. And on weekends, I do an hour to an hour and a half.
Good for you.
So I'm proud of myself. I still fast. I stopped fasting while I was on vacation camping, but I still fast now. Like, I am being consistent with everything. I'm very proud of myself.
That's so good. I've been consistent now that we're giving updates. I've been pretty consistent. I want to say pretty, like very consistent with the gym for the last 3 weeks. I did my first pull-up on my own again yesterday.
Is it like this, or like with your hands?
No, like
fingers facing you?
Yeah, fingers facing me. Which is, I mean, even when I was like at the height of my lifting weights, like I had done the other grip. I don't remember the name of the grips.
Is it when
now.
you're like pop? Because you can do it both ways.
Yeah, your palms are on the. If your palms are on the bar, I could do pull-ups that way before. Not many, because it's just easier when you're using your biceps with the other grip. But I literally like patted myself on the back at the gym. I was like, what? I hadn't been able to do that. And it's been years, probably like 4 years that I haven't been able to do, or maybe 4, at least 4 years.
I don't think I've even tried.
But I've been like working on progressively getting stronger and really listening to my body. And it feels good, because for me, I have a tendency, this is all about knowing yourself, right? I have a tendency to be like, yeah, I won't go to the gym, and it'll be like a month. I'll be like, what have I done with myself?
How did that like happen? Like a month passed, like, right?
I know.
I need to get back. I've been so busy when I have a moment to either like catch up on my studying, do my meditation. I haven't worked out since I got back from camping.
Movement's so important.
But I bike back and forth for Aurora, so.
Yeah, that's very true. You do get a lot of movement with that. But so yeah, that's exercise.
I want to do, but I want to do like, I want to go back to the weights. So I want to find a balance where I can do my meditations and do my workouts, but still catch up on my studying and still do my, do like the episodes with you. Like, and read all the books.
I always say, like, you have to be realistic, because is 2 hours of meditation something that you're going to be able to sustain? Maybe you're doing that now, but maybe you cut down to an hour and then you have an hour to work out.
Like, I do an hour in the morning after I drop Aurora off at school, and then I do an hour before I go to sleep. I'm taking time out of my sleep, actually, so I'm sleeping less.
Yeah, sleep is important, though.
I know, but
making sure you get enough hours of sleep, that helps with so many things.
I also want, there's a lot of, I don't know. I'm in the process of actively breaking a lot of programs, so I think I need to really put up my energy in that right now. So like you said, maybe later on it changes.
That sounds good. Yeah. But just think, like, once you've broken those programs, say, okay, what's sustainable? Because then we're holding ourselves up to this expectation. It's like, things are going to get in the way, and if you don't do it one day, then you need to find balance. And I think finding balance in every sense, from the spiritual to the emotional to the physical.
I don't know if you can hear, there's a boat passing on the canal, but I cannot stop the boat from passing.
No, I could hear it the other day when you were talking about it, though.
Yeah. Wait.
I can't hear it, but when I listen back to the recording to edit, yeah, I can hear it. It's your microphone. It picks up literally everything. But yeah, I think we all have to find balance in that. And I think this is where I've fallen into that trap so many times. Like, I'm going to work out this. And I'm right now just like, even if I go to the gym and just walk on the treadmill, just get out of the house too. For me right now, working from home, I need to get out of the house. Sometimes I have to force myself. Do I want to go? No. But when I get there, I'm like, yes, let's do this. But I also listen to my body. Like, am I going to go really hard today, or am I going to just take it easy? And that's also finding balance. And then I try to mix in days where I work out with my friends, so then I socialize too while I'm doing it. And then we both talk and we
nice.
catch up and we laugh and we have fun. So it's like, it's this nice, for me, the gym, even though I resist it a lot of times, it really helps me. It helps me spiritually. It helps me emotionally. And it helps me feel empowered. I always talk about that. And I always, like, at the beginning of this journey, because I had got my personal training certification, right? I thought I was going down that path. And then all this spiritual stuff happened. And it's like, I'm still using it. And I studied all that for a reason, for sure. And I think it got me into this, like, helping people energy. But I think also it's like, I knew that I was going to use this long term and how important it was for me in my life, and getting that information. It's like, oh, it's not in vain, right? I'm still using it for myself, and I can help people still. Like, they can ask me for advice and I can try to help them. But it's like, not everything is going to serve you in the way that you think it's going to serve you, right? And I think that's where people get in their own way, and they're like, I studied this and I'm not even doing it. Well, maybe you aren't right now, but could that be something?
Or maybe it was something that was going to help you with something else.
Yes. So we have to stop being so hard on ourselves too. Because I think that for me at the beginning, I was like, wow, I spent hours and hours and hours studying every day. I was like taking hours of my day, my whole weekend to study. I was flashcards and tests and I was doing like practice tests, and I passed the test. And I'm like, and I'm not even using it, but I am actually, because I'm using it for myself. And to me, it was something that I was like, can I do this? Can I learn all these really difficult things about the body and personal training that was so far out of things that I've studied in the past? And I did it because I applied myself. And I think that for me, it was more that than anything else. Like, it made me feel empowered to know that if I ever choose a different path in the future, doesn't matter what it is. If I am passionate about it and I love it, I can get there. It's just a matter of applying myself, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to mention anything before we go?
No. No.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't think I want to mention anything either. I usually give some kind of update at the end, but yeah. I think we're all good. Just make sure you follow us on Instagram.
I'm going to pick back up with Book Talk on, the YouTube channel.
Good.
So I'm currently reading a book about Project Serpos.
Yeah, you've been talking about that in the Telegram group, yeah.
I'm obsessed with that. Just the fact, I can do a whole episode about this. I shouldn't even start, because if not, we're going to leave like in 20 years. But it's
don't.
The fact that they sent these scientists, astronauts, and, scientific people to another planet in Zeta Reticuli, and they managed to keep it silent. And 25 years later, they're just someone's... Because what I learned was 25 years have to pass before someone that has part of it actually has the right to talk about it. Meanwhile, it's classified and you can't legally, say anything.
Right, yeah.
So 25 years have passed, and I'm like, I can't believe they kept this whole thing quiet. And then people are still on Earth going, aliens don't exist, when the government was like, let's send people over to the Zeta Reticuli the whole time. Like, what? And this happened before we were born. That's how long ago it was.
That's nuts.
So yeah, I'm going to be doing a book talk about that book. I also already have notes to go back to doing my book talk about the Dolores Cannon book, because there's just so much to talk about. I'm still on the same Dolores Cannon book. There's just so much. It's so much.
Well, take your time with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm bringing it down to a bunch of episodes because there's too much to say. But yeah, I
haven't read anything by Dolores Cannon. I should. I have a few of her books, but I haven't gotten to reading them. But I will. And on our book not book talk, but it's our
book club.
What is it? Book club. That's it. I couldn't find the word. Our book club is coming up really soon. We need to make sure we get a date in for that.
We need to get Courtney,
for our Patreon members, and get Courtney booked in. I'm excited.
Talk about her book.
Yeah. All right. So like I said, make sure you're following us on Instagram and on YouTube. All the links will be on the show notes. And we will be back with a new episode next week. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you.